Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace here, dropping in on you on this Saturday morning. I don't know about where you are, but here it's been raining since early yesterday evening, sometimes extremely heavy. So it's a gloomy day outside, but it's a bright day on the inside. You know, I have some unbelievable expectations for my life, my family, our businesses. And I am absolutely expecting extraordinary things to happen in the coming days, weeks, and months. And I keep myself in that mind state. Those of you who know me know, I get those moments where I get hit hard, but I try to rescue myself as quickly as possible from any type of thinking that is not in line with what it is I know I have coming for me. And I do the best I can to get to you guys every day. Sometimes I need to take some time away to pull myself together and get it together, but I try to be on point as much as I can. You know, I have a goal. I mean, literally, of how many times I'm going to engage people through video and how many videos I want up on different platforms by a certain time. It's just a part of my goal to change the lives of 1 million people by the end of 2019. And based on the emails and messages I've been getting, I'm well on my way and I'm excited about that. I think that when you plant seeds like that, some of the other things in life that we tend to give so much concern to are taken care of. When you pour into other people, when you become a beacon of light, when you become a conduit of change, and you put that into motion, the more lives you change, the better your life becomes. It's just the way the universe is created to work. The best way to receive is to be a giver. And I have seen this over and over in my life, not only with me, but watching other people as well. So I want to encourage you in that area. Now, I want to remind you guys something else I'm excited about that's also going to contribute to my ability to hit that 1 million mark as far as how many people I am able to positively impact. And that is and I made this announcement initially the other day, but I know a lot of people still don't know. I'm proud to announce that the Visionetics Institute is now offering my Power of Paradigms course online at Udemy. The link is in the description box. Here's the thing. My Power of Paradigms course, the whole course, the full course, because it comes in increments on my site, but the full course is $899.95. With partnering with Udemy, one of the things they're going to ask you to do is really, really, really lower your price to make it accessible to everybody. And I was with that because my goal is to reach people who under normal circumstances wouldn't be able to afford my services. And so this was perfect to me. I create the course, I make it right for online, and then I serve the people and whatever. I mean, and it's only $29.99, and that's at its most. What I agreed to is they ask you if you would opt into a promo contract, which is basically anytime they decide to lower the price of your service to get more people in, they do it. And so I've had it as low since I've started less than a week ago. It's been $10. Last time I checked, I think it was 14 bucks. And it's moving around, and I'm okay with whatever it goes at because what I'm trying to do is reach people. And so, we've had a few enrollees already, but I'm looking to really crank that up. And at $29.95, this is a 30-day program when you work it right. You start out and you look at it, you go through it, and you practice what you're given, and then you do it for 30 days. You set your new paradigm up, and then you practice it for 30 days. And in 30 days, you start to develop thinking habits. And so I'm excited about that. And again, up until the remainder of the year, if you get Critical Mass, my 20th book, The Phenomenon of Next Level Living, you will also get a free DISC assessment. That's going to be good until the end of this month when we go into the new year, and I'll see what I'll do about that then. But you can do that as well. So, and you also get a free DISC assessment when you join the online course too. It'll tell you when you're going through it, when to contact me, how to contact me, and you'll actually be contacting the support team. But they'll set it up, and you'll actually go have a one-on-one, either phone conversation or video conference with yours truly, and we'll do your DISC assessment. So that's a great way to get a $350 service for Either way, roughly around 30 bucks, whether it's the book or whether it's the class, hey. Anyway, that's that. And speaking of habits, I want to talk to you about 7 habits that wreak havoc on your motivation to really put in the work you need to put in. And you have to understand that habits are what produce your results. What you do habitually is what you will get habitually. And so your habits are simply behaviors in thinking and behaving or acting that is a result of your belief system. So when you need to change habits, you have to change beliefs, and then you create these thoughts and activities that align with these new beliefs, and you practice them until they become habitual. Well, I'm going to give you 7 habits. Instead of we talk about habits that produce great things, right? So what I'm going to do this morning, and I'm going to actually talk to you about 7 habits that actually wreak havoc on your motivation. If you want to talk about 7 things that destroy motivation and inhibit your ability to work consistently and passionately on what you're doing, these are at the top of the list. And we're going to start with comparing yourself to others. One of the worst things you can do when you're trying to climb a ladder or advance yourself or get something done is to look over at someone else and compare yourself to them. I've said this, I don't know how many times. This is nothing new for the people who have listened to me. When you start to compare yourself, you put yourself in a position where you can easily become intimidated, you can become insecure, you can become frustrated. Why? Because you're looking at someone and you're seeing where they're at and you're trying to judge where you're at. And what happens is you ignore the story in the backdrop. You don't know where they started. You don't know how much they went through in the background to get there. You don't know how many sacrifices they made that you didn't make. And you'll start to judge yourself based on they're moving faster than me, or they've gotten more done than me. Maybe I'm just not good at it. Maybe I suck at it. And what you have to understand is the more your confidence dwindles, the less motivated you are. Nobody gets motivated by doing something they think they can't do. So you've got to be careful about doing that. Now, there's nothing wrong in observing someone who excels at what they do if you're observing them to understand how they do it so that you can determine how you will best do it. And you may not do it exactly like them, but you can follow the pattern. You may be less gifted vocally, but better in writing. And so you may have to do what they do verbally in writing, or you may not be as good in writing as you are as doing video. So what they write, you may have to do videos to do. You know your strengths. You have to learn. That's one thing the DISC assessment does. It identifies your areas of strength, how you approach things, how you engage things. So you'll kind of know how to set up what you're going to do and the best way to get it done. But anyway, that's something you don't stop comparing yourself to the next person. You don't know where they started. You don't know how long they've been in the game. You don't know what they had to give up in order to get where they're at. And so what you do is, if you're going to look at them, observe them, but don't compare them to where they're at and where you're at, because it's going to work against you. It will kill your motivation. Next, perfectionism. Perfectionism is another thief of productivity. And most people, I'm a perfectionist. Well, here's the thing is, nobody's perfect. And no matter how you look at something and how hard you work on something, you're going to be able to look at it when you finish and see something else that needs to be done. You can never get it to perfect. Like I said, I have been fortunate enough to write and publish 20 books. And the perfectionist approach doesn't work. The way I write is this. I write it with flow. I proof it as I go, but I write in flow. So I can literally, when I sit down and I have all my research done and I have all of my material and outline in front of me, I can write a chapter a day, easy. And then I go back and I work on, content editing, proofing, syntax restructuring, things of that nature that I think, okay, this will come across better and be better understood this way. But I write it how I feel it when it's flowing, and then I get back to it. But if I sit there and say, I have seen people work on one page for days. And it's like, what are you doing? Write it. And then you can actually get somebody else for a few $100 to come in and perfect it. Get the content editing down, make sure that the message you're trying to convey is being conveyed, and do all that good stuff. And the book will be done. But, when you're sitting down there and you're just hammering away, you go back and say, no, that should probably be here. And you're actually working against yourself. Get the job done, then go back. Whatever project you're working on, whether it's a business plan, a marketing research, writing up a financial analysis, whatever it is you're doing for your business, or maybe you sit up doing a budget for your home. Maybe you're planning a trip for you and your wife, whatever it is, your husband, whatever it is, you need to make sure you get the project done. You know, like for instance, when I did this online program for the Power Paradigms course, I created the program. Then I went back and looked at it and said, okay, will this flow online? Is this too much? Whatever. And I did it, got it done and up in no time. Now, obviously I had the original to go with, but when you know what you're doing and you invest in being aware of where you're at and what you do and who you are, when you get time to do something, you do it based on what you know and who you are. You don't try to mimic and imitate someone else. You do what it is. So what happens is, with that, I mean, there's so many different things that I can do because number one, I become, first of all, confident in who I am, confident in what I'm capable of, knowing what my gift is, and not needing to validate that with anybody. So I'm able to step up and go. Very few of my speeches are scripted. I haven't wrote a speech in years. Now I may write an outline and then I don't stay with it because I flow with I let my spirit, the energy that I get and the conscious knowledge that I receive and the movement and the direction of the spirit and what I'm getting guides me in what I go on. I might be here and something will say, hey, we need to touch on this. And I seamlessly flow to that and I deal with it and then I'll eventually get back. But that is what I do. And it's because I have the confidence in who I am and what I know. I've spent so much time developing what I know I can get in, and I sense in the crowd what's needed. See, I can write whatever I want to write and then get there, and most of the people in that audience are dealing with something completely different. And when I sense it, you can look at their faces, you can feel their energy, and you know, okay, I'm not on it. And then you might stop and ask a question, okay, who's here going through this, or who's here dealing with that? But you have to know that. And I just actually stood up and did exactly what I'm talking about in this particular section. We started out with perfectionism, but I ended up here because I felt it was necessary. And I'm feeling energy from a distance. We're not in front of each other, but I have trained myself to feel energy of the people who are watching and listening to me, even if they're on the telephone, on video conference, or even simply watching video and commenting in the field. Okay, the next thing is postponing getting started. Oh man, a lot of us do this. You know, I'm gonna get started as soon as I finish this. I gotta make this phone call. I'm gonna do this, and you know, I gotta wait and do this first, and then I'm gonna get started on it. I'm gonna knock this out. Then I'm gonna check my emails, and then I'm gonna get started. You look up, it's lunchtime. I'm gonna go to lunch. When I get back from lunch, I'm gonna jump straight on it. Then you get back from lunch, there's a couple other things set up. I'm gonna go knock these out. Then you look up, it's the end of the day, and you haven't done what you were supposed to be doing. And so you are putting things off or postponing getting started, and you're waiting for the perfect time. There is no such thing as the perfect time. The perfect time to get started on something that needs to be done is now. It's not going to be always comfortable and convenient, but you need to get started. When you get started, you get into a flow of things. You'll look up, and before you know it, most of it is done, and you're going like, wow. But as long as you keep putting it off, it's not done. It's becoming more stressful, and you're running out of time. What else can I say about postponing? A lot of people like to wait on the perfect time, and some people like to wait on opportunities. The best way to get past that is to establish a specific routine on how you're going to engage your day. At this time, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this. If you got to go to the office or go to your work site or wherever you're at, I'm going to get there. When I get out, I'm going to punch in, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to get started. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to do this for 2 hours, and I'm going to take a break and do this. Then in 30 minutes, I'm going to get back and I'm going to do A, B, C, and D. And you map it out and you force yourself to stick to it. And after doing it for a few weeks, it will be automatic. You won't even have to force yourself into the routine. The routine will be ingrained in your psyche. It will be a part of your natural habitual behavior. And you will now be a person that gets stuff done automatically. But you have to start. Another thing, this is going to get the women. Another thing that actually works against your motivation is multitasking. And, you know, women love to talk about their ability to multitask and how they do it better than men. And the truth of the matter is they do. They are better at multitasking than men. But here's the thing, even when you're good at multitasking, there are some things that have to happen for you to multitask. See, as humans, our brains are designed and fixed that we do our best work when we're focused on a central thing. We are now focused, and certain things require focus. When you're multitasking, You're out there and you're saying, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to check my emails. I'm going to write this letter. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And you're doing it all at the same time. And conventional thinking would sit up and say, because I'm doing multiple things, I'm being more productive. But the problem is the level and the quality of the work will be affected, because it's just simply proven. Even when you study the most effective multitaskers and you tell them, okay, you're only going to do this. And then you say, okay, go ahead and do it your way, multitask. The level of the work is different. When you give them the 4 tasks that they're trying to do together in a singular moment, the work they produce when they're just focusing on it is better than when they're doing all 4. And then you tend to miss things when you got all 4, because every time you switch to do something different in this multitasking thing that you're doing, you're calling your brain to switch focuses, and things get missed in that. You know, a word misspelled, something left out, whatever, it happens. But what happens is if you consistently do that and your work doesn't measure up to par, you'll lose motivation. You'll get up and sit up and start to question yourself, and then you look up and you're not as engaged in the work, you're not as solid in the work, and it's a problem. Another thing that's sort of along the same line is allowing distractions. Distractions come in a lot of ways. One of the ways that I have to train myself to stop doing is I've limited my screen time, my TV time, because I spend so much time in front of a screen anyway doing my work. But when I'm doing my work, I'm controlling what I'm engaging. I control what I look up. I control what I read. I control what I see. I control what I hear. So it's not as bad as watching TV where these commercials pop up or the content comes out and it's not what you need to be. And it can impact you psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. But I've limited my screen time, but I still have certain programs on TV I like to watch, and I like to spend time watching TV with my wife. That's how she unwinds. So what I do is I limit it. But what I did when I first started limiting my TV time, I tried to cheat. And what I was doing is playing the TV, listening to it while it was in another room and in my office working. And what happens is you convince yourself, okay, I'm not really in front of TV, plus I'm getting work done, and I kind of know what's going on with the game. And what happens is you now have a distraction. We're easily distracted anyway. We normally have situations where somewhere between 20 and 40% of the time, even when people are trying to focus, they wander. The mind wanders about 20 to 40% of the time over the course of the day, even when you're trying to focus. Imagine when you are putting distractions in your work, in your space of progress and productivity, you lower the productivity, because now, again, you're drawing your focus away from it. And there's a difference in giving your attention to something and focusing on something. And so those are the things that you have to be careful about when you're looking at TV or you invite your friends over for a work session. You're literally forcing your mind to attempt to concentrate on 2 or more things, which it doesn't do well. Now, it can give attention to multiple things, but to focus on something is a problem. And then the other thing about that is when you are allowing these distractions in, you create an environment in which you are easily moved to something else, taken away from something else. You look up and then if you are a person who is already in a situation where you are work lazy and unpurposed in what you're doing. Maybe you're doing something that needs to be done, but you don't really want to do it or you don't like to do it. So you're just kind of trying to get through it. Well, if you're like that about a certain task, whenever you start to do that task, your brain subconsciously is looking for a reason to take a break. It's looking for a reason to get away from it, because you have established in your subconscious that you hate it, you don't want to do it, and it's uncomfortable, and it's not pleasing, it's displeasurable. So your brain is subconsciously, without you telling it to, looking for any reason whatsoever to get away from this. And so now you've got music on, or you got your friends over and they're talking about something and it's funny, so you stop what you're doing and now you're over there communicating or participating in the conversation or in front of the TV, or you're dancing to the music in your headphones. Now, the wonderful thing that I love is that you can listen to music. And if you can get music and pretty much it's the same flow of music, same type, same pace, you can listen to it and it'll actually put your mind at ease and rest you. But when it's got lyrics, totally different game, because your subconscious is hearing the lyrics, even when you are focused on something and not. And so all kind of things can happen with that. Be very aware of the lyrics you're listening to at any time, but definitely if you're going to be in a work environment, even if you're just cleaning the house, be careful of what the music is while you're vacuuming, sweeping, wiping, whatever. Next, we're going to talk about saying yes. Now, this is the one that get a lot of people. I personally don't have that problem. I'll say no with the heartbeat. And I learned that a long time ago. Why you want to make everybody happy, why you want to do the things that make people feel like, man, this dude, is really caring. He's generous with his time and all that. There has to be a point in time and a limit to what you do. So there are certain things that, I'll say no to. It doesn't require thought. Other things I'll say I'll have to get back to you, and it'll give me time to evaluate where it fits on the priority list and how it impacts what I'm doing. See, my work is the most important because that's why I'm here on earth, is my work. Now, sometimes people will come with you and ask you to do things that directly is associated with your work. So that's an easy one. Somebody comes and say, hey, I'm going through this right now. And I say, hey, look, let's talk about it. Or, hey, give me 30 minutes and I'm gonna call you back and we'll talk about it. That's in my work. It might not be directly involved with the project I'm dealing with, but it's in my work, so it's a little bit easier. But there are certain things, and sometimes no matter how important it is, you have to be able to say no, not now. And the more you're able to say no, here's another thing that comes with that. Not only do you preserve your time, remember, you only have so much mental energy and brain power every day. And, that's a thing called decision fatigue. Decision fatigue says that when I wake up in the morning, I choose and make decisions better, and it's proven that as the day goes along, my decision-making faculties diminish and my decisions aren't best. So I try to make all of my important decisions early in the morning when my mind is fresh. And you'll see it, and you probably never gave much thought to it, but if you think of people that are high performers that you get to see a lot, the Simon Sinek's, the Zuckerbergs. And I'm using these particular people for a reason, not because they're my favorite people. Simon Sinek I love, but Mark Zuckerberg is just somebody that you need to pay attention to for certain reasons, but not somebody I'm crazy about. Steve Jobs, Tony Robbins. If you ever notice, these people look like they're wearing the same thing every time you see them. And it may be a different t-shirt, but it's a t-shirt, it's the same. And you're going like, okay, these are billionaires or multimillionaires, and what are they doing? But what happens is these guys understand that even when I wake up in the morning, having to decide what I'm going to wear actually takes a decision that could have been used on something else. So they have, Mark Zuckerberg has probably 100 gray t-shirts in his closet. Steve Jobs had 100 black long sleeve t-shirts in his closet. Tony Robbins, black t-shirt, a black polo. And you just grab it out, throw it on. It's not a decision you have to make, and you reserve that ability to make a decision when it's going to be something you're going to need to do down the line. And so that's something that, we have to be. So when you're sitting up and saying yes to people, you have to realize you're also donating a portion of your mental resources to helping them do what they're doing, and that's going to impact what you need to get done. And you need to make sure you make that balance to where it works for you. Finally, indecisiveness. Indecision is extremely destructive. When you can't figure out something, you're trying to get all the information together. You're trying to make sure you don't make the wrong decision. You're trying to, you're afraid of making the wrong decision, so you don't make no decision. Making the wrong decision is better than no decision. The wrong decision puts you in motion, engages you, and puts you in action. And the very moment that you determine that the decision you made was not the right one, you simply adjust. Flexibility and adjustability is an absolute must in life, because you're not going to make the right decision every time. And even when you make the right decision, you will find that it'll get you so far, and then there's a need for another decision. And that next decision might take you off of that specific course you got on with the first decision and move you to something else. And you've got to be willing to adjust in order to keep things moving. So what you have to understand is make a decision. It's not, and specifically when it comes to men, nothing is, to me, as far as I can tell, there are a bunch of things that women look for in men. Being indecisive is like one of the biggest turnoffs you can have. When you can't make a decision, when it's like, I don't know. And it's a difference in deferring out of concern and care and respect. And it's another not to be able to make a decision. When it's time to make a decision, make the decision and be prepared to make the necessary changes to correct it if you're wrong. But you've got to make a decision. I put myself on a time limit. If it's something that needs to have a decision, I've got a certain amount of time that I'm going to take in order to make it. It's not going to be days. It's going to be, let me sit up and let me look at it, and then I'm going to make a decision. And then, it's nothing that like really really gets me in when it comes to business and engaging people than the person said, hey, I need to think about it, let me get back to you. And it's a week and 2 weeks down and they still haven't gotten a response. I don't even want to work with anybody that takes that long. You know, you get in, you make a decision, and then you deal with the decision you made. And you're going to make some great choices and you're going to make some poor choices, but you got to make the choice. And so what I do is I give myself a time limit. Now, if I get to that time limit and I still don't feel I have all the information that I need, that I can see in a pragmatic way, meaning I can look at it, go through it, and reasonably and rationally make a decision, I go with my gut. And I'm learning to go with my gut even more. Why? Because the gut is just another way of saying spiritual intuition. It's a way of saying that I'm connected to the higher power. I'm connected to God, and that I am allowing my spirit to communicate with God, or communicate with the universal consciousness. And now I have my answer. And it literally works more than when you think you know it all and you got all the information. There's a knowing greater than the knowing you have, no matter how much you know. And that's in being connected to God and understanding and being willing to allow your spirit to communicate with the consciousness you're already connected to anyway. Everybody's connected to this consciousness and everybody's connected together. And that's the thing, is so much you can know when you open yourself up. How many people bypass what their spirit is telling them to follow this checklist that they got, that they think they got it all figured out, and it comes back to bite them in the butt. But anyway, whatever you do, make the decision. And I mean, that's number 7. So that's it. I mean, you've got those. You've got comparing yourself to others, perfectionism, postponing getting started on any project or any task, multitasking, allowing distractions in your environment, saying yes all the time to what other people want you to do, and bypassing and not prioritizing what you need to do. And finally, being indecisive. Those are habits that will wreak havoc on your motivation and your ability to become passionately engaged in the things you need to get done. And so all those things are things you can work on individually and collectively and improve your productivity no matter what it is you're doing. There's a way to approach it and there's a way to get it done. But remember, you've got to be the one to make that decision. It's always up to you. And finally, hey man, I know all these people, I had it kind of clicked off. I was reading something, but finally, make sure that you're committed to what you're doing. We spend a lot of time in our day doing things that don't have anything to do with what it is we're trying to do. We fill our space with a bunch of fillers. And what I mean by fillers is most people will have a list of things they need to do or things that need to get done. And instead of doing the things that are going to advance them the most, the things that are probably a little more difficult, take a little more time, they go to the things they can do quickly, but don't have much meaning or influence on what you're trying to do. You know, but you, at the end of the day, you've got all these checks on your checklist. Your to-do list look like you were putting in mad work. But when you look at the progress you're making as a business owner, as a father, as a spouse, as a community activist, or whatever it is you're doing, and you look at that, and you're not gaining any ground. Why? Because you're just trying to check off lists. Take the time to evaluate what has to get done. Ask yourself, the thing I get up in the morning, I'm going to prime myself, I'm going to get my head right, and then I'm going to get focused on what needs to get done. And then I'm going to say, okay, what will have the greatest impact? Now, probably I'm going to already have done that the night before. I'm going to look down and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do first when I finish my priming in the morning. I'm going to knock this out first. And, you know, then I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this. And then you get it done. And then you start to move into things. Have the things that have to actually be absolutely be done that day to move you forward. And then you get to the other things. And what I find is when I focus on the things that absolutely have to get done, a lot of the other things that are sort of like ancillary, they get done, or I find out that it was unnecessary to do them. So a lot of things you're doing, you're going to find you actually don't have to do if you handle your business with the things that absolutely must get done. That's something that we struggle with. We want to be busy, but busy and productive are not necessarily synonymous. You know, we make them synonymous, but that doesn't mean that they actually equate, and they don't. It's a bunch of busy people getting nothing done. And it's a bunch of people you look at and say, man, they ain't never doing nothing, but they knocking out what they need to knock out. And that's the important thing. You know, by the time, like I tell people, you know, you hear this saying all the time and you think people are just bragging. But I've done more by 10 or 11 o'clock than average person is going to do all day. Why? Because I get up and I give myself several hours before I've got to engage anybody. That's time where I'm focused, I'm centered, no distractions, and I get it done. By the time stuff starts coming, phone starts ringing, emails start coming in, all that stuff, I've had 3 hours to just go and get it done. So by the time I get to 10 and 11 and 12, shoot, man, it's like my 4 or 5. And then I still got the rest of the day to do other stuff and get caught up and deal with all the stuff that popped up that I didn't know was coming. And, you know, I mean, and like I told you guys yesterday, it ain't always peaches and cream. Sometimes you get blows that you weren't expecting. Sometimes it don't go the way you thought. Sometimes, I mean, being a business owner and being directly engaged in something as major as the social issues, social and socioeconomic issues of the Black community comes with a price, and it comes with all kind of things happening. And it doesn't always look the way you thought it would look. It doesn't always happen when you think it will happen. It doesn't come in the way you want it to, and you've got to be able to deal with that. But what I can tell you is, because I get up at between 4 and 5 every morning, what I'm able to do is get the kids off, get primed, get my head right, get in the game, and get stuff done, so that when stuff starts to go crazy, all the things that needed to be done are done. I had this situation happen to me a few days ago. Will, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I had a situation happen a few days ago. And luckily, by the time it hit, I'm already, you know, taking care of the things I need to take care of. So now I'm focused on getting that done. And it got kind of, you know, it got kind of crazy, but I got it done. And that is what happens in life. Number one is there's never this point, and I said this when I talked about that, I think it was yesterday, that there's never a point in your life, no matter how advanced you get, no matter how far along in your vision you move, that you get to a point where obstacles disappear, struggles go away, delay never happens, setbacks never come, that everything is smooth. You never get to that point. Matter of fact, if you ever get to a point where everything is running smooth, check your bearings. You're probably off course. I can tell you, anything worth having comes with work. It comes with an intention to sit up and push through the most extreme difficulty to accomplish the things that you have set up in your mind to accomplish. And that's work. It's perseverance. It's persistence. It's being relentless. It's sitting up and determining, you know what, no matter what, I'm not quitting. And that's the mindset you have to have. You have to have this mindset that it's rough today. It's one of them days. And I've trained myself. I rarely talk about it, but you know, when I talk about something, it's normally in my review, or it's either in my review or it's so intense that I'm literally talking my faith because I'm battling it at the moment. But normally when I talk about something, I've already put it behind me. I'm not the victim person. So you're not going to catch me on social media every 2 hours talking about, man, I'm getting my butt kicked. Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. I'm transparent because people need to see that with the things that I've been able to accomplish came difficulty, came some results from some bad decisions I made. All of these things are a part of progressing. Nobody makes every decision right. Nobody gets through life unscathed. Everybody's got skeletons in the closet. Now, what we do is we tend to convince ourselves that our skeletons aren't as bad as everybody else's, so they really don't exist. And that's how we, you know, settle our moral compass. But the truth of the matter is we've made poor decisions. We've done some things we're not proud of, and it has landed us in situations we had to work ourselves out of. That's part of growth. That's development. Wisdom comes out of that when you allow life to teach you. And so those are the things that I want to share with you today. Get away from the bad habits that slow you down. Learn the things that work. Observe people who are doing things that you want to do in life, and establish within yourself that you're going to get what you're doing done. Don't be deterred by delay. Man, I see so many people quit before they finish. I see people quit and they're right at the point of breakthrough. And what happens is delay sets in. And see, I'm one of those people, man, you know, that's why I don't gamble. Because see, I'm the kind of person that if I invest something in something, I want it back, and I'm not leaving till I get it. And when you gamble and you start losing and you have that mindset, you keep losing because you keep trying to fight and take it back. But I've got that mindset, and it works for me when I'm grinding. Though it doesn't work in a situation where you gamble. That's why even when, you know, I've ran a couple of businesses where I used to have to be in Vegas twice a year. And while all my other buddies and colleagues and partners are down gambling, I'm at the slot machine because I found something. If you sit down with $100 worth of quarters and you play, the slot machine will cycle the win. So you never lose. I learned that, and they're like, okay, so while they're over there, I'm gonna sit here and these people gonna keep passing by and giving me drinks, and I'm just keep it. And then I end up leaving with money that was more than I needed to pay for the trip by sitting up playing slot machines. And just understand, if I sit here and don't leave, it's going to cycle. It takes so many cycles. What normally happens is people sit down, throw in $15 and leave, $15 and leave. Then this one person sits down, throws a few quarters in and wins. But when you sit there and play it, the cycle comes around. And I learned that, and so that's what I did. But this thing, this aversion I have with losing comes in great when it comes to not quitting. Why? Because every time I invest in something, I begin the process of building sweat equity. I'm building equity that I put into something. And the moment I put sweat equity into something, I don't care how little it is, I want the reward of the equity I put into it. I'm not willing to surrender the equity by quitting. So many people put sweat equity into something. It doesn't come at the time they think it should come, and they quit. I refuse to quit. I'm going to put it in. If it doesn't come, I'm going to keep working on it. You've heard me say this a million times, and anybody knows me know. And people are looking at me and say, you're crazy. Why don't you just give up? No. See, I'm going to get it or I'm going to die trying, because number one, for me to have made up in my mind that I was going after it, it meant something to me, because I don't just jump on projects or jump on things I want to do just because it sounds good. I look at it and I say, and I ask myself literally, are you willing to go the distance to have it? If I'm not willing to go the distance to have it, I won't take it on. Because if I'm not willing to go the distance, whatever will stop me, whatever the thing is that will stop me in my tracks, I'm going to run into it. That's life. Anything that you are very afraid of, you're going to have to face. Anything that you don't like, in order to have something, you're going to have to face. So I make up in my mind, am I willing to go the distance? If not, I'll just back off of it. And because I'm willing to go the distance, I got sweat equity in it. The more I stay in it, the more I fight, the more sweat equity I have, the harder I fight. I don't get to a point and say, well, man, I tried and it's not happening the way I thought it should happen, so I'm just going to back off of it. No, 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 no. I'm going hard, and I'm going to keep going until I get it. And what I can tell you is I've gotten way more than I haven't, and the things that I haven't, I'm still moving toward, and I see them coming. I'm never going to look at myself, as long as I'm breathing and in my right mind, I'm never going to look at myself and say, man, I've been in the same spot I was in last year. That's what most people miss. Most people see they haven't gotten what they set out to get. They don't look at the growth. I look at the growth. I'm more excited about the growth than I am hitting the goal. The growth lasts. The goal is a moment in time that you celebrate, and then it's on to the next thing. But the growth is an eternal part of who you're becoming. And so I get excited about that. Am I the same person as I was last month? Am I the same person as I was last year? Absolutely not. And that will never be the case for me, because I'm constantly grinding on being better. And because I'm becoming better, I'm becoming more effective. And because I'm becoming more effective, I'm getting more done, and I'm getting closer to where I'm going. You know, the idea of changing 1 million lives over the course of 2019 comes from having put in so many hours of work that I'm at that point now where I know I can do that. Is it something that's easy to sit down and look at how I'm gonna do? No. But I mean, the moment that I made up in my mind I was gonna do it, 2 immediate partnerships formed. It's amazing what happens when you commit to doing something that you don't know how you're gonna do. That's when providence opens. God has a way of holding back providence to test your faith. Now, no matter what your faith is, just listen to me. You can say God, the universe, the Almighty, the Supreme Being, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, there are ways that your faith is going to be tested. And when you sit up and say, I'm going to do something, and you start to look for the reason, you forget the whole idea of what faith is. I can't see how I'm going to do it. So maybe this isn't for me. I can't really see it. No, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So faith, you can't see it. You've got to sit up and just know it. And then when you sit up and say, you know what, I don't even know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to commit to doing it, God opens the door of providence. Here go people. I've had this happen to me where I'm sitting down and I'm using Starbucks. This was years ago, but I'm using Starbucks as my satellite office. You know, that's where I'm setting up and I'm working from. I'm not working from home anymore because I'm starting to merge home and work, and I'm never actually unwinding because my work is right in the next room or the next or downstairs or upstairs, whatever. And so I decided, no, I'm gonna work in a place. When I leave that place, I'm leave to work and I'm gonna come home and unwind. And so I'm working on satellite. And there are people that would pass me and they would pay attention to me for whatever reason, nod their head, hey, how you doing? You having a good day? And, you know, be friendly, and you see them every day. And then there's this time where I sit up and say, you know what? I'm finna make this move. I commit to making the move, don't have a clue of how I'm gonna get it done because it's not an area of expertise at the time. And I've had people stop by and say, hey, guy, you know, I come in here every day, get my coffee, and I see you here and you're hard at work and you're consistent. I haven't missed you being here one day. What is it you do? And I start talking about it, and either that person is the person I need to know or they know the person I need to know, and bam. But it didn't happen. They saw me every day. But the moment I committed to doing something, they stopped. You never know what's waiting on you on the other side of that decision to become committed to do something. And it should never be based on what you can see. It should be based on how passionate you are about getting it done, how much it means to you to have it done. And when you make that decision, you trust that everything you need is on the inside of your design. And when you speak to it and you declare it, you establish it, and it starts to happen. The universe has no option or alternative but to respond to your faith in like manner, in positive manner, and produce that thing for which you demand. That's the act of faith in the most purest and simplest way. You sit up and decide you want something, you start to move toward it, and you establish at that moment that nothing's going to stop you, and you know that it's going to happen, and the universe says, I have to meet you halfway. I'm going to conspire with you to get you the things that you want. With that being said, look, I'm going to get out of here. It has been a joy to sit down and talk with you this morning. I got a lot to get done on this Saturday, but keep your head up, keep focused. Don't forget, the link is in there. Enroll in the Power of Paradigms course. Like I said, this one, everybody, if you're serious about change and creating new paradigm shifts, can afford $29.99 or less. Because like I said, I never know what they're going to be charging for it because they're controlling the price, but it will never go over $29.99. So that's it. Get out there, do something today. This is my challenge to you. Take on a task that's going to be meaningful and get it done today. If that's the only thing you get done, don't get all frenetic and unglued by all these little things on your little list. Get one thing that's going to have an impact. It may be taking the spouse out for dinner. It may be having a talk with a friend. It may be going down and helping serve or feed the homeless. It could be anything, but think of something meaningful that will change lives, not just yours, but others, and do it today. That's my challenge to you. As I always say, live your life on full. And when you do that, you can be ensured that when you leave this place, you will die on E. And that should be the goal of every person that walks this planet. With that said, I'm out of here. You guys have an unbelievable day.